Libor, Pin Ping William, Ato in Juba, Malatori, Ayam Yo, Pin Ping William, Ato in Benti, Walla Quaju, Kaya Wow, Pin Ping William, Ato in Malkal, Walla Pinyaram, Pin Ping William.
Welcome everybody. Welcome to Lexington Media. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you are. My name is Abraham Adit. I'm one of Lexington Media hosts. So it's good to see you guys. My host this evening is my brother Edmund Yakani. He's live now with us in South Sudan in Juba capital. So he's here to give us weekly brief and update what's going on in our country. So let me give this chance, before I give this chance template, for those of you who are listening to Clubhouse, Facebook, or YouTube, please start sharing and pin people in. So let me welcome my brother Edmund. Edmund, welcome to Let's Say Media again. Thank you to have you and give our South Sudanese back home and diaspora news and few update what's going on in our country. So let me give this few minutes to introduce yourself and brief before we dive to our conversation. Thank you. And mute yourself here. We cannot hear you. Okay, so check your audio. It seems like it's not. We cannot hear yourself. Now, try to reset it and then come back. Okay, let's wait a little bit so he can adjust his phone. Now. Yeah, try to log out and then come back. Yeah. Okay, bear with us, guys. Let us fix the audio. Let me see. Yeah. Okay, let's wait, guys. Let us fix the network. Then start hearing.
Jilo wona tonadol toniel DJ Dingarang Jagdalo di ana papi Adena majaga jideng makwaga oton parat iye manuni ya kudimit pandani ya ayi tonu tuol butung katone adena majaga Anyar ke berkuan baik, ijin sekolah ikapi, ajong cilo, kami banyak kali pingi kilo. Adena majaga cideng makwaga oton parat, iya mana uni gaya kudimit. Pandeni ya ul, aye tonu tuol potong katone, adena majaga. Anyar ke berkuan baik, ijin sekolah ikapi. Jong cilo, nami banyak aye pingi kilo. Adena majaga cideng makwaga oton parat, iye mana uni gaya kudimit. Pandeni ya ul, aye tonu katone, adena majaga. Anyar ke berkuan baik, ijin sekolah ikapi. Jong cilo, nami ban in the other than Pandiri Juno. Ayora Mago, I'm not in the Maja, Mati, Tina Tokutia, Tinchio. Ayora Jima, Manajua, John Direct. In Ayo, I keep loving you, people Jamalo, I need Pino. And Bayanina Gajalia, Dogu Pandiri. I am a don't know, Marco. In each ballet, I am a Mayadi. Couldn't give a body. Undana, oh, why we are well to be you know what to boy, my book.
Hello?
Hello, yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. Finally, thanks God.
Finally, yeah. So we are back. So okay. So now yes, go ahead and give a little bit 5 minutes or 1 minute, 2 minutes for your introduction. Then we will dive in our conversation. Thank you guys for being patient with us. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yeah, and also I like to apologize. Thanks for guys to be patient. We have a bit of internet issues here in country, but of course we'll keep on battling and use the possible way. So today I'm using my phone. Yeah, I'd like to say first hi to everybody, to our listeners, and we continue our conversation because the only way we can fix our country is through conversation. We are fine, of course, in terms of a general update is that what is coming as a new trend of a disturbing or a worrying situation, it is this newly escalation of violence that we might have seen in the country. Of course, it started with what happened between the Apuk and the Marialbai, or Apuk of Warab and Marialbai of Western Baragazal, around Ju River. I'm quite sure all of you are aware of that. And now we have a new development which is coming around Nasir. We have seen the issue of the fishing between what is called the White Army of the Shuluk versus the SSPDF over fishing competition over the Nile, and that have led to a bit of tension. And we've seen attempts around Adok Port, which is in Unity State, which is becoming a source of income. And there's a bit of tension growing around that area. We have seen tension growing around Terekeka County of Central Equatorial State between the SSPDF and the IO. IO accusing SSPDF of arresting 5 of their members. And now we have seen accusation that some of those 5 members are executed already. So these are a bit of the pockets of violence that happen. But I feel still we have positive stories to share. And the positive story is that we are pursuing a dialogue for really creating a conducive environment for the conduct of the elections. And as you're aware, when we refer to conducive environment, is really the prerequisite that are required by the agreement that are necessary to be achieved for creating a conducive environment for the conduct of the election by December. Of course, as a civil society activists, we are pursuing the element of influencing people, demanding for free, fair, and credible election, and inclusive on actually not only free and fair. We're recently engaging with the issue of political parties registration, where the fees is really expensive, very high, $75,000. But I'd like to say, these are some of the issues I can share during conversation. But otherwise, Juba is safe, Juba is okay. Economically, dollar is so fast, running Hussein Ball in 100 meters. I don't know who can we put on behalf of SSPDF, on behalf of SSPDF to defeat. Yeah.
It's really big issues. Yeah, I see it's running. The dollar rate is really running. I heard yesterday that the dollar rate is like $100, 160,000. That's a low. I said, oh my God, what's going on here? How the innocent people can afford the meal, buy food at the market.
And because of that, incidents of crimes have started raising up because of that.
Mm.
Yep.
Really. So before we begin our topic, I see that President Salva Kiir traveled to Addis Ababa for the meeting with the other African leaders. Can you brief us something about that? So what are they discussing today? Did they wrap it up today? I see some of the pictures and news.
Obviously, there was a 37 ordinary session of African Union, head of states and governments taking place. Previously, His Excellency President normally delegate people to represent, but this time His Excellency President went by himself. And I'm quite sure there's a lot of factors that made His Excellency to go. One, the factors of getting a regional solidarity for the expected looming election by December 2024. There's a need to get a regional endorsement of that process, acceptance of that process. But also there's a need to use some of the regional players to pursue some of what we can term as international actors to accept the elections and to pursue the elections. That's some factor. Other factor is the question of Sudan. As you know, Sudan is unfolding. Sudan is getting a bit disturbing, and any political instability in Sudan have a direct implication on us. And one of it is, you might have realized during the strike of the wounded in the Ministry of in front of the Ministry of Finance. The Ministry of Finance have said there's a delay of our oil getting to the international market because of the crisis going on in Sudan, in Port Sudan. So that means it have huge economical impact on us. If we are to go for the election, then we need resources, and one of the main sources of resources is the oil, and so that means fixing the situation in Sudan is a priority, and regional consensus is required for fixing the situation in Sudan. And no, His Excellency President Salva tried several attempts to fix the situation in Sudan, but it seems the parties in Sudan have other external players that are pulling them here and there. So I think those are all the factors that might have pushed His Excellency President to go himself in person. What I will share is I've been following closely the summit from Juba with the contacts I have at the AU. One, yes, South Sudan was not a big issue in the agenda of the AU, but that does not mean that South Sudan is being neglected. By default, South Sudan become a priority of the AUC5. And your AUC5, I would like to refer, it is an AU ad hoc committee composed of 5 member states of AU, which was selected on representing the RECs, the economical blocks of African Union continent. And I can give you the names of those 5 countries. We have Rwanda for East African Community. We have South Africa for SADC, which is also the chair of the team. We have Nigeria for West Africa. We have Chad for the African French or Central African countries. Then we have Algeria for the African Arab member state bloc. So those are 5 countries that we term them as AUC5 or AU ad hoc committee composed of the 5 members. They have met at the level of the envoys at the level of AU Peace and Security Council, and they have resolved that as possible, as soon they want to send their ministers of foreign affairs to South Sudan to assess the country preparation for elections. That means a lot. That means South Sudan is not forgotten, because as such meeting of 5 countries that represent the 5 regional blocks of African Union, it means South Sudan is still on the agenda, though it's not placed for the head of states. But of course, the address of the speech of His Excellency President to the African Union, if you have been following, he clearly mentioned the country is heading towards elections, and there's no more extension, and the elections require a continental support. Of course, as you are aware, any electoral process require endorsement, whether at the regional level or international level, to gain the aspect of being credible elections through regional and international bodies like African Union and UN. So I think those are some of the factors that has pushed President to go to attend the summit by himself, not delegating any person. And of course, he have a delegation with him, including a Minister of Foreign Affairs. And you have seen Minister of Foreign Affairs have spoken publicly on Sudan case, because Sudan case have economical implication on us, and the economical implication have bit of influence on how much financial are we prepared to finance the election as a nation. As you are aware that international community have said very clearly at this early stage, they don't have resources to finance the electoral process in South Sudan. So we have to swallow 80% or 90% of the electoral process in terms of budgeting from domestic source of revenue. There will be no any sort of like financial assistance coming from the region, though we can get technical assistance from the region and the global community, but we have to put the money for the actual electoral process from our own revenue. And one of our main revenue, source of revenue is the oil, and the oil is affected with the crisis in Sudan. So I think that's what I can present, or I can share.
Thank you. Yeah, oil, now we seem like oil crisis now is appear, because I even read something last week that there was a pipe like around in Khartoum is leaking, and they say one of the well has been shut down, or two well has been shut down, there will be in fact toward the oil sale. And for the Red Seas too, like not even for the Yemen, that the Yemen is blocked. Those of boat or big the trouble on the Red Sea, so they block them. So that would be a challenge of selling the oil at the market, national market, and that will affect the South Sudan economy, and probably that's contribute toward this rising dollar rate at the market in South Sudan, which is a very fortunate and very sad to see. Hopefully, things will calm down so that they can fix that. So let's go back to a couple of days or a few days ago. The wounded warriors, they went to Ministry of Finance to protest, and they got wounded again. So the protest went out. There's Finance Minister Dr. Bach called, or any other people in his office, they called law enforcement, and they came, and then they break out the protest, and they end up beating the wounded warriors, which raised alarm. Okay, these warriors, they fought for our country for the last 21 years, and they deserve better treatment than what they deserve when they were wounded. So I see the pictures, and they are real heartbreaking. So what happened? You were there at that time. You were there, and we just go. You can give us what did you see? What happened exactly? Because sometimes some of the news on Facebook or some people would put the fake news. But while you are there at that day, can you give us into what happened? What's going on? Why is it the law enforcement take that action to beat up our wounded warriors? This is really sad for the country to see, and very embarrassing. And the statement too, what Dr. Bach said, he called the wounded warriors so-called. So that is proclaimed, the so-called proclaimed wounded warrior. That statement is really hard, is really, and he should be apologized for that. So go ahead and give us what happened. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I was a live witness of the incident. The incident caught me actually in the front of the Ministry of Finance while I'm supposed to go to the Ministry of General Education for some follow-up of projects. So when I was in front door of the Ministry of Finance, I found so many people who are wounded in civilian dress, and I asked, who are these? They told me these are wounded heroes. So then I followed up, and I speak to some of them. Why are they here? And when they learned that it was me, quite a number of them came to me to talk and express their frustration. And one of the things I made as a call for them is that if they're demanding their rights, they should know that they have a responsibility to safeguard the call for their rights. And one of my message to them as a responsibility is to act non-violently, not to go violently against any staff or any person in the Ministry of Finance, but keep on a non-violent way to call for their rights. Unfortunately, in the middle of this, I saw arrival of law enforcement agencies. They shoot at the air, they shoot at the window, and at some of the wounded heroes. They have been shot at actually, which is a target, which you cannot say is a crossfire, is a really target. And which, as I said, is unfortunate that wounded heroes that contributed for the independence of the country have to be wounded again as they're demanding for their rights, which is unfortunate, stressful for someone like me who witnessed lively, because they didn't decide to be wounded. It is their commitment for national call that resulted to our independence and make them lose some parts of their bodies. So they didn't lose it just as a prestige. They lost it to pay for the price of our independence. That's one thing I'd like to make it very clear. As you said also, I like to really say that it's unfortunate that our Minister of Finance called them a so-called self-proclaimed, which is really a very stressful and insult to that. And of course, we've been urging His Excellency, President to look into this issue, and also look at the Minister of Finance just to come out and apologize for them, because if it wasn't the loss of the parts of the bodies of those wounded heroes, we couldn't have a Minister of Finance. If it wasn't the loss of the bodies of the parts of their bodies, we couldn't have an independent state of South Sudan. And before they lost their parts of their bodies, they might have seen very disturbing, stressful moments, but they continue until they got wounded. And some of them are wounded while they are being bitten by mosquitoes in the bushes. So they contributed for really the independence of our country. And these are the people that were not supposed to negotiate their rights. We're supposed to respond immediately. Actually, they are top priority of any priority of the country in terms of responding to their needs, because they have families. Some of their families are depending on them. Some of their families are breaking down. And with this stressful economic situation where the dollar rate is getting too high, almost to 200%, they have issues to respond to. So we're supposed to respond to them in a responsible manner. But of course, law enforcement agencies came in, they shot at them, some of them are wounded. What is the problem? The problem is they're demanding payment of their dues, which delays. And we are aware that it's not only the wounded heroes' payment that delays, there are quite a number of other civil servants that have worked for almost now 6 to 8 months without payment, and even their fellow soldiers. We are aware of that economical crisis in the country, and as ministers say, the few income are generated through the non-oil revenue sources, delay of the oil in reaching out to the international market because of the Sudan crisis. We are aware of that. But there's a very constructive way to handle that. One of the constructive way to handle that is for the leadership between the Ministry of Finance and Defense to be transparent to the heroes, to tell them exactly where are the money and where there's a delay. If you see the statement released by Honorable Minister of Finance, the Honorable Minister of Finance clear his hands totally, saying we have transferred this money to Minister of Defense. While the Minister of Defense has a misleading information that the money is with the Ministry of Finance because there's a budget line that is held by Minister of Finance for the wounded heroes. If you see a statement of minister saying there's no budget line that is specifically dedicated for the wounded heroes, and they have transferred money. And remember, minister used a word say, I inherited this problem in the ministry, and I responded to them without any deduction or without any reduction. That's what ministers say, Honorable Minister say, I took it, I found it there, and I respond to it exactly as I found it on the ground. So there's an absence of transparency between the leadership of the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Defense to the wounded heroes. And of course, it's none of the business of the wounded heroes. What they want is they want the payment. If the payment is with defense, let defense pay off the wounded heroes without pushing them to Ministry of Finance. If it's Ministry of Finance transfer this money to the wounded heroes. But if you see a statement from the Ministry of Finance is that they have transferred over $3 million US, first 2 million, then later on $1 million US, that respond to the medical issues of the wounded heroes to the Ministry of Defense. But we have not seen any counter statement from the Ministry of Defense clarifying what the Ministry of Finance have said. Because the Ministry of Finance say, look here, guys, don't accuse us as the Ministry of Finance and Planning. We have done our part. We have sent the money to a relevant ministry, but it seems the relevant ministry didn't pay out. So also, if there's issues of corruption in the Ministry of Defense, there's a need to be transparent and there's a need to really spot it out. So the whole game is between the disappearance of $3 million US that are supposed to be responding to the needs of the wounded heroes is missing between Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Defense. And Finance is cleaning their hands, and they came out public officially with a statement that transfer $3 million to the Ministry of Defense. So it means the problem is now within the Ministry of Defense. And the Ministry of Defense didn't respond. They respond aggressively by hitting on the wounded heroes, and they say some of them are wounded. And if you remember, so Ministry of Finance say even those who are wounded, there are 3 who are at a critical moment who are wounded. They are undergoing medical treatment under the care of the Ministry of Finance. So
Yeah,
I think for me,
for record too, can you verify that if there is any loss of life?
No.
Okay.
No.
Because
There's no loss of life. There's no loss of lives.
2 people have been died, but what is
yes, there's.
Okay.
Yeah, they are. In the beginning, there is information that 2 people have died, and the 2 people that are expected to die are among the 3 critical wounded heroes that the minister described. That there's 3 critical wounded. People expect 2 of them might have died. Actually, 2 arrived to the hospital, and there's 2 dead bodies. And immediately people conclude the 2 dead bodies are the 2 dead bodies of the critical injured wounded heroes. That's where the misinformation or the misleading information is. But at least 3 are at critical moment that are undergoing treatment. But there's a couple of them who are wounded. So here comes the question, where is the problem? For me, straightforward, the problem is in the Ministry of Defense. If what Ministry of Finance says is correct, then the problem is in the Ministry of Defense. So the wounded heroes have been directed to a wrong ministry while they're supposed to go to a right ministry. That's one
So,
thing.
yeah, bear in mind they are playing a game on Wounded Warrior. They will go. What I hear is that the Wounded Warrior, they will go to Minister of Defense, and they say that your money are in the Minister of Finance. And then when they go back to Minister of Finance, they said your money are in Minister of
Exactly.
the game that they are playing on these Wounded Warriors.
Exactly. And that's why part of our call is for the two ministries to come out with a joint position. Where is the money of the wounded heroes? Though if there's no budget, but if the Ministry of Finance says $3 million US are being transferred to Ministry of Defense on behalf of responding to the needs of the wounded heroes, where is that money? And the wounded heroes could have not got wild if they have a clear answer. What they want is a clear answer. Where is our money? Who is holding our money and pay us our money because we are facing hardship in life? And we didn't decide to be wounded. If otherwise, if we're not wounded, we would have pursued our life like any other person who is not wounded. You know? So then for me, I don't blame the wounded heroes for being aggressive or being irresponsible. It is the leadership of the Ministry of Defense and Finance that are not transparent and they're not clear to the wounded heroes. And that's why the wounded heroes decided to face them. And I wish to see a counter statement from the Ministry of Defense to the statement released by the Ministry of Finance. Unfortunately, defense is quiet until now. You know? And when I raised questions, I realized that I was being challenged by the spokesperson of South Sudan People Defense Force that who am I to speak on the issues of the money of the wounded heroes or delay of salaries? I am a citizen. I have a constitutional obligation to provide check and balance and to demand for transparency and accountability. Without anybody providing me approval for that, that's my constitutional rights. Enshrined in our Constitution, in the guiding principle of the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights and other provisions that are there in the Constitution, as we are to create a principle of citizens have the right to hold their government accountable. So for me, the whole blame goes to the lack of clarity between the Ministry of Finance and Defense. They have to be answerable. And they have to be blamed for any mess between the wounded heroes and the government authorities, being it the Ministry of Finance or Ministry of Defense. And the Ministry of Defense has been harsh on the wounded heroes. So the wounded heroes realize that the soft ministry they can land on is finance, because that's a defense ministry which may respond to them aggressively. But I think our honorable Minister of Defense need to respond to the statement made by the Minister of Finance. If he didn't respond, then he has to be blamed that the Minister of Defense have embezzled the money. Because Minister of Finance cleaned their hands that, look here, we transfer this money. We are ready to transfer it at any moment we've got the money. But the question comes, where is the 3 million of the wounded heroes that are all transferred? Were they being paid off or not? And that is what the wounded heroes were asking for. Unfortunately, we respond to them aggressively with lack of respect and not honoring the loss of the parts of their bodies that have resulted for us to gain independent Republic of South Sudan. That's what I can talk about that particular issue.
Absolutely, and also, you know, President as a commander-in-chief, even though he's outside our country right now, he should respond to this because he's a commander-in-chief, and if something, this wounded warrior are his comrade. They are his comrade during the Asperi movement in when they fought with the Arab in the north, and he should respond immediately so that address this crisis between wounded warriors and financial ministry. Also, while you are there, like the statement that Dr. Bob said that the self-proclaimed wounded warriors, according to his this quotation, I'm quoting him. This means that he said these wounded warriors are not the warriors. They are just people that coming from somewhere that are not the wounded warriors. So when you were there, did you see these people? Are they really? Are they wounded warriors or they are not? So we want to know exactly where did he get this self-proclaimed as a wounded warriors. So what are they exactly?
You know, when I told you in the beginning of my statement that I was a live witness, I interacted with quite a number of them. These are real wounded warriors. These are real SPLA soldiers that have lost parts of their bodies during the crisis. I asked them, why are you in civilian uniform? They say, if we come with our uniform, they will prevent us from entering here. So imagine even they themselves, they didn't come in a way that organized. They have to come on individual way to assemble. Because they believe they come with the uniform, they will be kicked out and they will not demand their rights. So these are real wounded heroes. So that statement of so-called self-proclaim, I think is a wrong, misplaced wording that Honorable Minister need to apologize for it. That appeal I want to make with due respect and honor. And I'm quite sure among the wounded, if he doesn't have a direct family member, he might have an indirect family member among those people. No family here in South Sudan have no any wounded person or lost a person for the struggle for the independence. So I would like to assure the audience that these are real wounded heroes. And then another thing that you have mentioned, that the president could have responded immediately. You know what? When there's a gunshots against the wounded heroes, it's at the same time president is arriving to his office. The motorcade of the president is arriving to his office immediately. There's the shootings of guns in the Ministry of Finance. The tiger, the protection of the president have to come out and cover the office. So he is aware of the gunshots because upon his arrival to office, it's where the gun shootings happen in the Ministry of Finance. We are blocked for almost half an hour. We can't move. Why? Because the protection of the president have to assure what is going on. And I'm quite sure President might have asked what is going on, why these gunshots. And I'm quite sure he might have been informed that it is a wounded heroes clashing with the authority of Minister of Finance, and the Minister of Finance have called for our security institutions to come and respond. So he is aware. And one of the things I'm waiting for is that our parliament is going to open soon from recess. The Committee on Security and Defense have to raise a motion on the issue of the wounded heroes. Because these are individuals that were supposed to give them high respect, high value of humanity. Their legs that they lost, their hands that they lost, or the 2 legs that they lost, it is a price that today we have independent Republic of South Sudan. It is the parts of their bodies that create the flag, that create the arm, the coat of arms, that create the SSP, that create the central bank, that create the ministries, that create the parliament, that they create the seat of the president. It's a lot of parts of the bodies. So we need to value them. If we come to priorities, they are priority number 1 over any priority of the country. Their needs we should respond to because they have families. They have not volunteered to be wounded. They've committed themselves to make what we are today. We need to appreciate them. We need to give them recognition. We need to give them humanity. We need to really be responsible enough to tell them that we thank you. You didn't decide to be. Otherwise, if they're not wounded, they couldn't come to Ministry of Finance. Some of them might not be the business people or farmers or having companies or running certain entrepreneurship. But because we found them with their commitment, they lost part of their bodies. They can't do other things. They're now completely with disability. And they didn't invite disability. What made them to be disabled today is what made us to have the flag flying in all the international spaces before UN, before AU, before IGAD, as a flag for the motorcade of the president, as a flag for our county commissioners, our state governors, as a flag wherever we are. It is today what made us to have a president for basketball. That's why today we have a basketball team that our brothers from the diaspora have to play for the Republic of South Sudan and made us proud and made us number 1 in Africa. It's the loss of their legs, the loss of their hands, parts of their bodies that made us to who we are today. So how dare we don't prioritize their needs? And how much anyway they want? They want more than the contributions we're doing for social events and funerals of veterans. So why not these who are alive? We can't support them to cater for their families. For me, it's real total inhuman act from our authorities.
It is indeed, because if there is no respect to our wounded warriors, heroes, and what the government do if they don't take care of their their vulnerable wounded warriors. They sacrifice their part of their body during the movement. This time, the government should take care of them. They should build them their hospital. They don't need to come out to do protests. Their bank account should, their money that has been every monthly, the money should go direct to them. There's no delay on this. Other payment will be delayed, yes, of course, but the payment of warriors, wounded warriors, cannot be delayed. Their service should be there 24/7. The hospital has to be there 24/7. When one of them got sick, but then immediately he should be taken to their own hospital, not public hospital. That's how the country, that's how the government should take care of their own veterans. And always the citizens should thank them for their services. They serve our nation. Without them, there's no South Sudan, apart from South Sudan of today. Their colleague died. And we see a lot. We have a lot of the soldiers who died during the front line. Their widows are there. Their children are there on the street. But the government is doing nothing to take care of the widows, to take care of their orphan. Now they are not even take care of their own wounded war heroes that who lost their part of their bodies. So what will help the country? So we are calling the President of the Republic of South Sudan, Commander-in-Chief, President Salva Kiir Mayardit, to take immediately action so that to take care of these wounded warriors. That's what we are called as a citizen of the country. Because this is the red line. This is called the red line where the wounded warriors can be mistreated the way it is. They wounded again. They almost lost 3 people. Wouldn't know what happened with these 3 conditions. They may die. For what? They survived during the war. Now, their own colleague now, are the one killing them again? That's sad. And condemnable. So that is my message to President Salva Kiir Mayardit. He have to take this action, and also to, as a citizen of South Sudan, we are the Minister of Finance, Dr. Barnaba, to come out to apologize. If it is Edmund, if it is other country like United States, for instance, if this
resignation,
he will be fired right away.
Yeah.
But not even fired, he will resign immediately. During that protest, he will resign. But South Sudan, anything happen like this is very tragic. So it is, and we will hope President Salva Kiir will take action and address these issues. This is sad and need to be addressed. Next, have Parliament. So has a Parliament on session, or I don't know, they are still, and they will be open very soon. What will be the topic priority? One of the top priority, I think, is about this topic we have discussed. I hope the Parliament will summon the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Defense, and Ministry of Interior. These 3 ministries, Parliament, if it is Parliament are really Parliament of the country, they should summon these 3 ministries to answer the question why this happened in their watch. So that's what I think. That's one of the things that the Parliament should, when they come back and reopen again, they should. This is the best agenda in their house to address. So go ahead with that. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I think as we're expecting our Parliament to come back from recess, because they didn't have a long recess, they have a short recess because of demanding issues in front of the leadership of the Parliament. Being it the Speaker and the members of the Parliament. Remember, the country is expecting a looming elections. And election is not an event. Election is a process, and part of those processes requires certain milestones to be delivered. So the Parliament is coming back from recess. As I said, for me, if the Parliament open after the recess, number 1 is the summon. And I will add 1 ministry to it. Minister of Finance, Minister of Defense, Minister of Interior, and Minister of National Security Service. these ministers should be summoned to the parliament to explain what is going on with the faith of the welfare of the wounded heroes. As you said, if you have to go to ideal world, they're not supposed to come to Ministry of Finance. They're supposed to get everything automatic because they have been valued, they have been recognized and paid for. So I think that's number one. Number two, even if it go for elections, even if it have unified forces, even if it go to constitutional review process, even if there's a money for elections, the breaking down of the country into pockets of deadly violence need to be addressed. So number two, the parliament have to respond exactly what is going on at the states level that is creating deadly violence. The issue of unearth between Twitch and Ngok is we're losing lives. The directive of the president that is supposed to resolve problem have created a tension between Nuer and the Ngok. What is going on? Machek as a spiritual leader is threatening unity. What's going on? What is going on between Apuk and Mariel Bai exactly? What is it? Wow town that is been stable is been destabilized now. What is happening? What is going on now in Nasser? Between now the term of the White Army is now attached to Shuluk. And there's a SPDF over issues of fishing. What is this merging tension in Adok Port in Unity State that almost were getting clashes to happen there? What is happening in Terekeka between SPDF and IO that now SPLM IO was saying they lost 5 of their members, they have been arrested and they're executed. KGKG is on trigger. People have to run to refugees camp. If you go to Jongole, the issue of Duk and other parts of Jongole, other incidents happening. So this subnational violence or state-based violence, they're political motivated. The parliament have to discuss that in a national legislature because that's the responsibility of the Council of States. If the back from the Research Council of States have to sit together with the parliament to have a legislative deliberations on this. That's second priority. The third priority, by practice, supplementary budgets are not supposed to go beyond certain limits. For example, limits of 5%. And supplementary budget is not supposed to address budgets that have been passed in the previous budget. The budget of the election that we have had about 713 billion SSP, in which 15% of it will be provided by the statement of the Minister of Finance when they approve the Council of Ministers. That budget is beyond the normal practice of supplementary budgets. So the parliament need to reach a decision that time has come. We're not respecting the ethics of supplementary budget. We need to open a budget for elections. That's a big issue that they need to bring up. They need to bring up the issue of registration of political parties, in which for you to register a political party in South Sudan, the fees is $75,000. That by itself is a denial of growth of political parties for nurturing democratic society. Parliament have to address that. Besides, we had people saying, of course, this also I got during my meetings with the head of the states in terms of His Excellency President, First Vice President, and other Vice Presidents, that food was delivered for rolling out the last phase of the unification of the forces. But as we speak per now, Martin Elia, when he was briefing the last meeting of RGMEC, he said it's only 7% of the previously graduated unified forces have been redeployed. It's on the military side of the redeployment of the graduated forces. The defense side of it's not yet been the defense and the civilian side and the what do you call the defense services is not yet been deployed. That means the police, the fire brigade, the prison service, the wildlife are not yet being redeployed. And this is a big force while we're looking for phase 2. And there's a silence of political leadership in terms of making political decisions for the conduct of the elections. We can't go, and if you see Her Excellency Vice President Mama Rebecca Nyandeng told me the elections is not yet been discussed at the presidency level. The parliament needs to sanction the presidency to have a meeting, so that the presidency meeting can lead to an inclusive political dialogue over the fate of the conduct of the elections. So this is a third priority. The question, if we're going to go for the elections, what type of elections? And how many rounds are we going to go for it? And when is it going to be with a timeline? And the issue of release of money. We can hear there's a money for elections, but can this money be released? And I've been speaking to people in the government who assured me, yes, we're going to release money. We're going to cover the infrastructure in terms of office space. So for me, these are all top priorities in front of the parliament when they're coming to recess. The unfortunate thing, the organization I worked for, we tracked our parliamentarians during the recess. How many of them have gone back to their relevant counties because they don't have constituency? Their constituency is a revitalized peace agreement. The only entity they can represent as a constituency is the counties. And they go to the counties, different counties. Most of them fly out. Some have gone for treatment. Some are in Juba doing their work in Juba. They're going to their counties. Few of them have gone to the counties. And some of them gone to the counties that have not reported publicly that I'm here as your representative in the parliament from this particular political party entity. Tell me what are the issues that we need to take it back if once the parliament open. So I'm not quite sure that we're going to have a very strong report from the MPs who have gone for recess about their counties, which we can term them as constituencies by default because they don't have constituency. Their constituency, as I say, it's a revitalized peace agreement. So the counties are their constituencies. They have to use it or states. So they went silent. And for me, it's going to be a shame. Do you know what they say, my brother? When it comes to their allowances, when it comes to their financial request, they make big noisy. If they can't tell the wounded heroes that we value you, we respect you, as a parliament will stand for your rights, then this parliament, I'm a bit sorry to say, they don't have the agenda for the best interest of the citizens in their heart if they can't protect the wounded heroes from what they're experiencing. Working with the sticks from a long distance, struggling to board a bus, and the society even discriminate the wounded heroes. If they don't jump to a public transport person, they don't pay, they are very aggressive. Yes, they have to get stressed because the way we treat them in a badly way. They're human beings like us. If you treat them well, they'll behave well. Someone's attitude saves the way how you behave to the person. So for me, those are top priorities before the parliament that they have to handle. Elections with 8 different milestones, they have to look into it. The issue of the widowed heroes, they have to look into it. The issue of the communal violence that are happening, which for me, and let me tell you, one of the things that is becoming common in all this new trend of the violence, this trend of the state-based violence is now linked with land. Mayardit and Ngok and Neth Market is a territorial issue. Apuk, Marialbai, there's this mine land in between Warap and Western Baragazal. If you go to Nasir, there's right now, as we speak, there's a merging issue between the Padang Dinka and the Shuluk Dinka about the eastern bank of the Nile. Does Shuluk have a right to live in the eastern bank of the Nile or not? And that is where Johnson Olonyi was coming from. If you go to Eastern Equatoria, there's this issue of Lapon Lopa is going to be another point of tension. There's a quite number of merging land issues. And already, if you realize, there's a national strategy which was passed as a national policy, which says the land belongs to the people. And the state parliament of Central Equatorial State rejected and say, this is a green license for land grabbing. So people believe the land belongs to the community. So land is the next aspect of returning the country back to violence. So for me, it's a really big responsibility before the parliament. If they come back from recess, they have to look into these priorities. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edmund. I have 2 gentlemen in the studio here. Let me give them a chance. Manon, can you open your mic?
Yes, sorry. Do you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, first of all, let me greet our guest, Edmund Yakani. Welcome, Blink Media, as usually. You are always with us here. Thank you so much for your time. And also, my greeting also to Blink Media and Sasmerit and Diang, and also General Diang. also those who South Sudan who are turning this form. Good evening or good night, wherever you are. First of all, I just listening from Edmund regarding the incident of last week in Ministry of Finance for the wounded heroes of South Sudan People Defense Force. But I just got today the statement from Minister of Defense. I got a copy, will send it to me, and some of clarity came out from that statements for exactly what is happening. It looked like February 13, they had a meeting with the leaders of the wounded heroes, representative to the Muslims. They had a meeting on February 13 in headquarters Bill Farms, and this meeting was conducted attended by Under Secretary of South Sudan People Defense Forces, and attended also by Chief of Staff of South Sudan Defense Forces and Chief of Military Intelligence. And I think they were actually raised.
Manon, did you?
They raise up that they are demanding to be paid 8 million, 29 million USD every month. That's one of the issue. And they were actually convened, and they were threatening, based on the statement, they were threatening if this money is not approved to them, they will protest. And I think they were actually being convened not to do it, because based on the South Sudan People Defense Force code of conduct, or the law of the military does not actually allow the protest, because the majority, all of them, they are still active duty, military uniform, and they're getting salary from the bill farm. So they were not to do that. That's one of the statement that was clear from the defense. And yes, it was clear that they're getting medical allowances directly from Ministry of Finance, and they're getting their medical allowances directly from Ministry of Finance. And also it mentioned that last year 2 institutions, which is Ministry of Defense and Ministry of Finance, do agree that there should be transparency and accountability, transfer of how they are managing or how they are allocating the money for medical allowances, treatments for the war heroes. And the Minister of Defense condemned the violence because it's not their policy. By any whatsoever, if you are in uniform, you are not allowed to make a protest. So they condemn the action. And third, they mentioned that they are formed a committee to investigate the whole scenario. If there are any other officer who encourage the action of violence in the Ministry of Finance, they will be investigated. I think that's the statement that came out from the Ministry of Defense. Here, I think in the first place, in my opinion, medical allowances should be not given directly from Ministry of Finance. They should transfer them to Ministry of Defense, and Ministry of Defense should be the one who should handle it, the medical allowance, because this Ministry of Defense and Veteran Affairs. So, and this is what I question last week. What is the relationship here with Ministry of Finance release money directly to wounded soldier? This money should be transferred to the Ministry of Defense, and then Ministry of Defense will manage it through the Veteran Affairs Department, which is actually responsible for wounded heroes. Therefore, I think this incident brought up many questions, and I think I do agree 100% that the South Sudan National Legislative Assembly is here to have more clarity and try to make some reforms so we can avoid in future incidents not happen, because this thing should not, this is not the way it should be done. It should not actually be through the Ministry of Finance to allocate. Yes, they can pay the money, but managing the money should be the responsibility of Ministry of Defense. Or go transfer to manage it, and they can decide whether they can look for insurance, because this money is a lot. It's better to have an insurance here that help insurance that will take care of this medical allowance instead of paying them as a cash. You know, and this is one of the problems, you know, because and also they mentioned that those people who are actually protesting, those are the wounded heroes in Juba only, assembly in Juba, because they have 10 states and 3 administrative, and they have wounded hero in those 10 states. And so it is something that need to be addressed, and it need our National Legislative Assembly to interfere into it and try to do some reforms, so at least we should not have the same incident happen. Yes, I agree with Edmund, and it's good that he mentioned that there's nobody die actually, but there's people that had wounded, and they have been taken under treatment by Minister of Finance, and I think that's a good thing. But here in social media, it has been explored by opposition as usually as business, that there are people that die and all of this thing, but there is no body die actually. They have serious injury and they are being taken care of them. But it is an incident that actually need attention, need praise, and also to interfere into it, and need our MPs to interfere into it. So at least the final solution that can be found, so in the future these things should not happen, and then finally they should be managed by Minister of Defense, not Minister of Finance. Minister of Finance should get himself away from this, and I hope Dr. Biar, as the new Minister of Finance, I think in his capacity after this incident, you know, I think he should also be willing to see the way how we can get the solution that will transfer the money to the third party, or at least independent body that will manage this money, and should not be managed by Minister of Finance directly. Thank you. That's what I can add.
Okay. Thank you, Manon. Edmund just drop off. He will be back. Let me give this chance to Adiang. Adiang, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm here. I did say, yeah. Thank you for bringing up. And I will express myself. I'm one of the because I'm in the West. And I used to go, yes, I was reinstated to the South Sudan platform. But I just keep coming back because I have family here, you know, and whatever happened here, I'm happy about it. Whatever happened is wrong, and I condemn it, and I'm going this way. One is one of Australian leader. It is an Australian leader in Yakani, and I'm here. So he knows me too. So by the way, this thing wrong is called wrong. Right is called right. People don't put it around the bush. So I'm still in Australia and I'm not in a position. But if that is wrong, call it wrong. So right is called right. You see that video? See what happened? What's the action now? Nothing. You see that everybody is quiet. To Republic of South Sudan. Forget about president. Those people will make their decision. They will decide what they decide. President is after 20 years, will come back, and they will manage it from our side too. So here I'm not really happy about it. This thing is not supposed to happen. It hasn't yet supposed to be taken care of. By the way, how? The way I look at it is different. The way I see the Minister of Finance, which is this boy right there, I call him boy, supposed to be there to go. This is really insanity. And this police inspector is supposed to go too. Why do I do that? There's no way you can see somebody who has been shot in a revolutionary struggle. If you shoot him again, or to beat him, like what's happening, that video, that's insanity. That's the country, not to the government. That's not to be done of human. Okay, convince them and say, okay, go to the farm, find your money there, whatever, just talk to them. Ordering soldiers to the soldiers, soldiers to the soldiers. That's why I make rebellion, South Sudan. These people, they just came with no gun, no uniform, no nothing. So how could you do that to them? You do we have a gun. They will run over this minister of finance. See that? They are really wonder heroes. And they say, no, they are not wonder heroes. That people come from nowhere. See that statement? That one is making me annoyed. See, he shouldn't say that. Park never went to the bush, never been wanted, never fight this country. Who come from nowhere? See that? I'm really disgraceful. And this one, president has to do something. You see that? Has to do something about these people who be given a position from nowhere that they have to go home. Then bring other people. You see that? Why do I say that? It's not personal. It is what you do, that's what he had you. You see? What you say, that's what he had you. Why don't you respect yourself as an old man, educated man, has called himself a doctor? See that? What kind of doctor is this? You see, you should have been said, okay, what happened was a mistake, and I transferred money there, and this and that. You should have been done this instead of saying this way. Okay, the money now is not there in the Minister of Defense, it's not here in Minister of Finance. Where is the money then? The money has been divided by them, by him, and by Minister of Defense. Accusation will go like that. You can guess. So, I don't want to guess. But where is the money? You will say money was being transferred, a couple of million. Where is it? Is it £1 million or $1 million? People have to be realistic here. But if this is the case of corruption is going on, corruption is, it's okay for them. But don't kill somebody. Do not touch somebody. Like this Mao cow, Dogo, they just beat him. Do you guys happy about this? Are you guys serious? So that's why it made me upset. And this one, President and Parliament has to do something. People who are responsible for this have to be investigated. They have to get out from the job, let them go home. And we have so many people qualified, put them in there, and all of this, find another job. See that? This is how it goes. Why? It is not hatred, but what you do come back to you. You see that? But Ahmadi, thank you very much for Lagos State Media to come here and share and trust myself. I appreciate that. Yes. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, this is my statement. If President didn't do anything, fire it. Wonderful. It means President is involved in this case. Yes, I will accuse him too. How could you let this thing happen in your face? This is your colleagues. See that? They don't be doing like that. Somebody has to be fired by this month or otherwise. I don't appreciate kind of business. Thank you, Medina. I have to go.
Thank you. Thank you, General Adiang. Appreciate it. Irmun, the person who just said is General, one of the SPLA General. His name is Adiang. He was in the Arca in 1983 until today. He's one of the general veteran. So thank you. Appreciate your voice.
Thank you.
Yeah, your voice made.
I have to leave. Bring some other people up.
Okay.
Because I'm not happy about this topic. This topic, somebody has to be fired, or otherwise. I'm tired.
Thank you. Yeah, Irmut, go ahead.
I think one I'd like to say is that the clarity that is required is not a clarity of the statements of the Minister of Finance and Minister of Defense. The clarity that is required is that both institutions have to come out very clear, because the statement of the defense I've seen, it's more of like the statement of the defense and the Minister of Finance is accusing each other. It's a blame game. And that's what the wounded hero does not want. They want to get a clear information about their services. And also, if you see, part of the clarity we need is that the Minister of Finance say there's no any approved budget line that responds to the needs of the wounded heroes in terms of their medical allowances. Yes, the Army Code of Conduct does not need to strike, and I think that's why they have to come to the Ministry of Finance in civilian uniform, not in uniform, so they're not seen as of course that depend. But also they're human beings that they need clarity, they need responses. It's none of their business not to have accurate information. So I agree with this concept of that transparency is needed between the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Defense in dealing with the matters of the wounded heroes. And then as one of the callers say, they're not supposed to get cash money. They're supposed to get services. Where is the medical corps of the army here in providing medical services to the wounded heroes? Where are the other social welfare units in providing them services? So for me, it's absence of transparency between the leadership of finance and the leadership of Ministry of Defense to respond to the needs of the wounded heroes. I'm quite sure the wounded heroes are told there's no money and they're convinced. I'm quite sure they'll never come to the Ministry of Finance. But because they've been kicked here and there, you go to defense say, no, we're not yet got this. You go to finance say, we're transferred this. So it is a counter accusation between the two institutions. And that's why Parliament need to reign on this issue. The ball is now in the court of our Parliament. They have to seek for clarity and find a concrete information to be communicated to the wounded heroes. The wounded heroes are not people who are stubborn, they're not arrogant, they're human beings like us. If they get accurate information, they will behave well. So like what the last caller said is clarity is needed. Right is right, wrong is wrong. And personally, when I was with them, I say, demand your rights in a non-violent way. Because this is a financial institution. You're supposed to be in bail farm. You're not supposed to strike here. Besides, given that the environment you're in is a sensitive environment because the office of His Excellency President, who is Commander-in-Chief, is close to this environment. Any havoc here is not going to be a very soft havoc in terms of response. The response is going to be aggressive. So don't ever there make any mistake to create a strike. But also the responses that were given to them and witness is too rough. We look at them like people who are stubborn, people who are stressed, people who never listen. The only way is shoot at them. So for me, it's a question of demonstration of responsibility between the Ministry of Finance and Defense. And if I can use this case as a simple case, sometimes there's some of us who going on claiming we need to protect sovereignty, we're sovereign state, we don't interference, we're sovereign ministry. Sovereignty goes together with responsibility. Once you lost responsibility, you lost sovereignty. So for me, it's a question of demonstration of responsibility in an honest and genuine manner towards the wounded heroes in terms of accurate information, transparent information, what is going on and what is happening and where are we now and what exactly answer can we provide to the wounded heroes. For me, that is the call I like to make.
Thank you, Edmund. There's a question that asked by Mapu Niam. He asked you that my question is, which he agree with the looming extension of roadmap by the leaders? Very much he's asking you what your input regarding about because there are allegations out there that there will be extension instead of election. So what is you can answer his question.
Yeah, thank you very much. This question is a very genuine question and a timely question. And I think it's a question that always my statement I direct to the leaders. And now the leaders are expected to be focusing on looming extension. I would like to answer after my tour of the leaders where I met with the principals. The word extension is very sensitive in my meetings with them because they would normally ask me, what is your tech? I would tell them I'm not pro-extension because you are given more than 4 extension and none of them you have demonstrated response.
Okay, we have network issues with the Edmund, so try to let us wait for him so he can connect it. Thank you. For those of you, we remain with a few minutes, so it's getting late there in Juba, and also too his network over there is not working well. So for those of watching, Yes, of course, all of these issues, are really, we need to condemn this uh, this act of wounded our heroes. This is not acceptable, and the government need to take action to address issues, because our heroes, heroes, they deserve better to be treated.
Sorry, the internet is disturbing now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've talked to the leaders over this issue of the extension.
Mhm.
I think it's one of the sensitive things to the leaders now to think of extension. They're very keen, they're looking for alternative words. But the spirit of buying more time is there. And I would like to respond before I would give my answer to this colleague is that previously, when they're doing the extension, they used to play with time with alternative way of getting period. Remember, the first one was called extension for 100 days. So 100 days sounds very small. You hear 100 days, you don't get like 3 months or 3 months and plus. So after 100 days, they move to another extension, and they say 24 months. They forget the word of days, they go for 24 months. So this word extension is becoming monotonous. They're looking for another word, But what I'd like to say is that our leaders are caught up right-handed in demonstrating their political instability in implementing the provision of the revitalized peace agreement. Right now, the country is facing looming elections. Citizens are demanding we need to vote in our leaders. And by the way, that's where sovereignty comes. Sovereignty comes through voting, not through, and the means that I come through peace agreements. Sometimes even it raises a question of sovereignty, whether you're really sovereign. Because you come through an agreement processes. The social contract between you and the citizens is absent. And the only way you can assure that there's a social contract between citizens and their leaders is when citizens voted in their leaders and their representatives. And that's what there's that demand. So one of the biggest things is that there's a looming idea of extending the period of the time of the agreement, but it's going to be very tough and very hard. That's why the whole two school of thought is that some were saying we are going for election and some say we're not going for election. But the unfortunate thing is that those who are saying we are going for election, they're not giving an open political civic space for those who want to join them. So it's a question also if we're going to go for elections, we need certain demonstration of responsibilities. And among the responsibilities, open political and civic space for every actor to go. Even my brother Abraham, I feel the registration of the political parties' fees is determined in a way that to shrink the growth of political parties. Remember, because as this statement, these mushrooming political parties, like as if other political parties are not mushrooming. All of us, all political actors are mushrooming. All political parties are mushrooming, and they find themselves to assume state powers. But the way how this fees is being fixed is to deny other people not to register political parties. Because there are certain political actors, their pockets are empty and they're broke, then they can't mobilize $75,000 to register. And remember what Dr. Martin briefed the RGM is that 24 parties out of the applicants failed to meet the criteria, which will come out next week in our report. We have our second domestic pre-election observation report we're issuing next week. And we really look into the criteria that disqualify the 24, and that will come very clear. I don't think those 25 they've been disqualified from a genuine background, but it's just the conditions for you to register political parties is been tight. Mobilization of members, building up documents, 75,000. Even some politicians say, I'm going to go back to farm. I come across some young merging political parties saying, no, I'm going to close the door of the party because these fees, I'm going to farm. Instead of me paying for $75,000 and there's no open political and civic space and I'm not enjoying the freedoms, that's a loss. I don't want to go for it. So for me, those are some of the things that really goes back. So my answer to the question is that our leaders, we need to pressurize them not to anymore. And for me personally, I'm not for any more extension. The previous one, I stood behind them with an interest that they will demonstrate responsibility. Some people told me they will never demonstrate responsibility. I still have the benefits of the doubt, and I gave them the benefits of the doubt. Right now, they show it very clear. They can't deliver. The only pathway they have is to call for an inclusive political dialogue and where technocratic government will come in. But if the men in uniform in South Sudan cannot behave like the men in uniform in Sudan, remember, Sudan went to violence when the uniform guys resisted, not technocratic government. Remember that created coup of Burhan and Himeti for kicking out Hamdok, where they detained Hamdok. Right now, they end up as the worst enemies.
Mm-hmm.
They created a coup to kick out civilian wing of the government because no return to civilian rule. But later on, look at the end results. They went to a deadly war. Besides, their only fake created coup for taking Hamdok as the head of civilian wing of Sudan to go off. So for me, our leaders need to learn. And of course, they are not acting on their own. They are acting together with their allies. The allies need to learn that business is not as usual. Time has come for us to be honest and sincere to ourselves. If things are harder to deliver, let us accept it. Things are harder to deliver. Let's come together as nationals under one umbrella of the nation. Everybody's in, and we forge a new way. None of us is going to kick any of us out of the country. We're all South Sudanese. This is our country. We just need to be genuine and honest to ourselves. This political attitude of being rigid and no compromises will never help this country. Will actually destroy this country further. That's my answer to the question.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. These leaders, they are playing delay detective. And also, too, as you can remember, a couple of years ago, one day, they said there's an election. We are going for election, whether you like it or not. And then when it's time for election, extension for 24 months, you see? So they are playing the mind of the citizen. And this is what they are playing right now. Same thing, same drama. They are saying, we are going for election. They are campaigning. When that time approach, guess what? They already set up their own. They already conclude they have the outcome, what they will do next. But they are just playing that in public eye. We are going for election. December election. When the December this year come, here is what we have. We are going for 5 years for extension. We don't. There are other stuff that have been using, and the government will fall for that. I mean, the citizen fall for that, and that's why they see they learn the mind of the citizen of South Sudan. But guess what? If you keep doing that, you will run out of excuse, and then what will be the next? Citizen will be fed up. We give you more time, and you are not honored for your word, and then thing will lose. Thing will break loose in the country, and then there will be a chaos happen again. And why you want that happen again? Just be honest for your word. If there's election, vote for election. Like these parliaments, this parliament, they are not elected by the citizen. That's why you see now they are in a session. That is what they are in. They are on session now. Suppose they should go to their own state and meet with their own people while they are on the break, and then discuss about the upcoming election to represent their own party. But they're not doing that. Some of them, they travel overseas. They want, if their family, their wife are in diaspora, they go to a diaspora. If their wife in East Africa, they go there. Until the time comes, then they will return back to Juba. You see, but they are not going back to the grassroots in 10 states. No, they're not doing that because they know for sure they are not elected by these people. They are appointees, so they don't care. They just go there and do what we have to do, get their own money, and that's it. They don't care about the citizen on the ground. So that's why people like us are supporting election. So election can take place. The voice of the people can be taken back, and the people can vote their own parliament, be there to present them. So that's the outcome. But if the leaders are not honest and they don't want election because they know that if the election take place, the citizen will vote them out, and the new leaders can come in, but they don't want to see that. So that's what I say.
Yes.
So I know the network is playing. Let us give my last, my last question for you, so we will end our show. I seen you today. You met with United Nations Secretary, United Nations Secretary General, Special Envoy, Ms. Hannah Xavier. Can you give us a brief? And most very much your meeting with her is regarding about peaceful and democratic election. So can you give us a brief about what your meeting with her today? Thank you.
Thank you. Today I met with Her Excellency Hannah Tete. Hannah Tete is a former Prime Minister of Ghana from opposition. And when we start the early days of the revitalization of the agreement, she was one of the 3 IGAD facilitators for the revitalization of the agreement in 2017-18. She's one of the strongest influential female facilitator, alongside the former Minister of Defense for Guinea and Minister of Foreign Affairs for Algeria. They are the IGAD-led facilitators that led to the revitalization of the agreement in terms of facilitation. Currently, she is appointed as the UN Secretary General Special Envoy to the Horn of Africa. So she really engaged the Horn of Africa around the agenda of peace and security. So she visited Juba today. As you are aware, that our country is witnessing a visit of the UN Undersecretary for Peace Operation, who have arrived to the country today. And of course, you are aware that these are all assessment missions to assess the situation we're in for the looming elections in December 2024. So in my meeting with Hannah Tete today, we had a very constructive discussion and deliberations on South Sudan preparation for elections and the situation in Sudan. So my sharing of information will be based on 2. First, she believes the end game of the transition in South Sudan is the elections. But proper preparation for the elections is required because the international community is worried. Condition number 1 is that they don't want to see the country turning back to violence because of the elections. They don't see a flip back to elections. And now she is on behalf of UN at the AU level, at the Horn of Africa level, but she is an African. So she's really concerned that we need to see a preparation for elections that will never allow the country to flip back to violence. That's one of the really key conditions. And I'm aware that that's one of the strongest positions of the United States, that the country should not return back to violence. We discussed with her the preconditions where compromise will be possible, where compromise can't be possible. We reached by consensus that compromise can't be possible around the unification of the forces and the constitution-making process. There's a need to really reach a concrete idea there. But of course, also I shared with her that in person, we are lobbying for a meeting of the 4 institutions: the National Election Commission, the National Constitutional Review Commission, the Political Parties Council, and the National Bureau of Statistics, to come with technical information that will inform political leaders to make some decisions on how to work concurrently on the process of creating a conducive environment for the elections. We discussed with her that. It's a very good discussion that we held. And of course, part of my advocacy with her is also asking for a mentor that will go in between His Excellency President and His Excellency First Vice President. Previously, when we started rolling out the agreement, Alpha Conari was there as a former president of Africa from Mali, from a post-conflict situation. He was able to nurture trust. We feel right now, as the country is looming for elections, African Union and the global community will support a mentor that will go, and the mentor should be an ex-president that is having ears of the president, first vice president, and other vice presidencies. So that's our discussion. On Sudan, mainly, I've been calling for an inclusive Sudan peace processes, and we deliberated on how to mobilize the citizens, constituents of Sudan to influence the gun class, because the gun class in Sudan or in South Sudan is a caste. Normally, they don't allow democracy to prevail. They don't allow democracy to grow, and that's what taken Sudan very far. Of course, we have discussed with her any instability in Sudan and have direct implication on South Sudan. And you might have seen the delay of the oil going to international market because of the crisis in Sudan, the shutdown of certain particular oil fields because of the crises that are happening in Sudan, and likely there'll be huge oil shutdown if Sudan crisis still continue, and if it comes towards the border with us in South Sudan, that's going to affect. And if the situation for Sudan still continue, and as you said, the tension from the global forces that are fighting in the Red Sea, in the Mediterranean Sea between the Houthis and the Americans, that also have affected the movement of commercial cargoes in the waters, and that have implications on us. So I think there's a need, and of course, I advocated that South Sudan need to see a neutral player to the parties in Sudan to be a special envoy to Sudan crisis, and that should be paired up by an influencer coming from Uganda, because Ethiopia have interest, Egypt have interest, and now Egypt is a fixed position whether to stand with the SAP or to accept Himeti to become a player. And my analysis is that Himeti by himself, he's ready for civilian technocratic government to be established, but provide he retain the powers of the presidency and he retain the influence of the military on the politics of the country. So those are all complex situations. And you have other players in Sudan like the Darfur, Blue Nile, Nuba Mountain, SPLM North. They don't feel still they're so much connected with what's going on between Himeti and Burhan, and they won't take advantage the confusion between Himeti and Burhan to establish their own. And you have seen already the Nuba Mountains have somehow technically declared their own government. Darfur is running their own government. Blue Nile is now also established. So it's now the center of Sudan, which is fighting and the other parts of the north. So for me, that's what I share with her, that there's a need for Sudan to have an inclusive political dialogue. And one of my appeals is that let the civilian wing of Sudan have their own consultations, conferences, that they build consensus, they consolidate themselves as a one entity to face, because the coming of Iranians behind SAP makes Khartoum as a still area of contestation that people are contested. People want to say SAP can't go for any negotiation if they're not in Khartoum. And they are made it very clear, no negotiation. And that means that until we go back to Khartoum, then we'll open our doors for negotiation. And I've seen how Burhan responded by suspending Sudan from IGAD membership state. Being a member of IGAD, Sudan was suspended by Burhan, which is unfortunate because that played negatively against him, and that gave him the chance to be recognized in Kampala, taking pictures in a red carpet with the IGAD member state, because Burhan is not there. He suspended Sudan, which is really a technical mistake that Burhan have done. And I told Hannah that. So for me, that's the discussion that we have. But of course, with South Sudan, we have reached to a conclusion that there's a need for technical assistance to be provided for South Sudan National Election Commission so that it deliver. And one of the things I'm advocating, that even there's a need for the region to send some experts, some election experts in terms of operation logistics from either Kenya, which have good experiences, to come and help our nationals in how to really go about the situation that we're in, if we really expect elections have to be held by December 2024, as time is running too fast. So those are some of our deliberations with Hannah Teta.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Edmund. I think we reached conclusion and it's getting late over there. So I will give you your last word so I can let you go. So it's getting late over there.
My final remark will be an appeal to our population in diaspora. The country is breaking into pockets of violence that are either cattle associated or land issues. I would really urge our population in diaspora, be ambassadors of peace back home. Never ever send a message that threatens here. I know that some of the warmongers are not in diaspora, they are here. They are Juba based. They are within Juba. But we should not give them any red carpet to walk in with their things. I hope diaspora can fix, name and shame those people who are promoting the violence. I'm not putting so much demand to our diaspora population, but this is what I want to say, that your voice is so influential. Take advantage of the influence of your voice to promote peace back home. And back home here, I'm calling on the young people, the youth, not to listen to the political leaders who want to use death of the youth as a ladder to power. They want to force youth to die so they climb on it as a power. That's very dangerous. To our political leaders, any secretive arrangement to end the transition, as long as not public consented or public have not given their consent and public have not reached around it, is dangerous for peace and stability in this country. I wish our leaders should do anything in a transparent, accountable manner, that if there's any negotiation, the negotiation have been to be made public, not done in secretive manner, because we are getting information, some secret negotiations going and may not be disclosed until June. So if this 5 months extension is among the secret discussion, if these shift of powers, the Vice President Wanega goes to Parliament, Abandon goes as a governor, Mama Rebecca goes as a governor, Abdul Bad goes as a governor, if that discussion is a secretive one, make it public. So for me, any agenda to end the transition in South Sudan need to be made public and require public consent. That's my last message. And thank you very much for hosting me.
Thank you so much, Edmund. Have a wonderful. Thank you so much. We will talk again next week when we're briefing, weekly briefing. Thank you. Have a wonderful night. And for those of you watching Clubhouse, listening in Clubhouse and YouTube and Facebook, thank you so much. Have a wonderful night. We will see you back again next time. Thank you, Edmund.
Good night. Good night. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
In Juba, Malatori, hey, I'm yo, in Ping William, in Benti, Walla Quaju, hey, wow, in Ping William, in Malkal, Walla Pinyaram, in Ping William.